Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Pittsburgh Current Podcast of the new year. I am your host, editor, and publisher of the Pittsburgh Current, Charlie Deitch, and I want to welcome you all back to a new year, exciting new year. I hear there's a couple of things going on this year that we're all interested in, maybe an election or two. But I want to let you know a couple of announcements. First, the first issue of the new year, the Pittsburgh Current, will be out this coming Tuesday. We're gonna have stories on Liberty Magic as well as some other stuff, and also the current anti-war protest movement that is growing in the city of Pittsburgh. Before we start today, though, I want to thank our sponsors, which are Drusky Entertainment and Jazz HR. Are you struggling to find quality candidates? With Jazz HR, you can easily post jobs, screen resumes, and schedule interviews from one central platform. Find and hire top talent fast for as low as $39 a month. Post your first job for free today at jazzhr.com. That's www.jazzhr.com. Our guest today is someone I've known for a while, since his... We actually have a common enemy, probably is the best way to say it. Daniel Smith is a candidate for State House. He's running against the incumbent Daryl Metcalfe. I was looking right. No, that's okay. Daryl Metcalfe, one of my favorite people, as anyone who knows my history knows. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, and Dan Smith is being brought to you by espresso and heavy coffee right now. So yes, good morning.
Yeah, see if they'll sign up for a sponsorship. That'd be great. So, a little bit about Dan ran against Daryl Metcalfe 2 years ago.
Right.
There was, a lot of talk about two things about whether or not a Democrat. Forget anything else, a Democrat could win in that district. Mm-hmm. But then there was also talk, because you are an openly gay man, there was question about how will that play in the district. So we're going to talk about all that. But earlier this year, last year, I forgot what year we're in, you announced that you were going to run for U.S. Congress against incumbent Mike Kelly.
Yes.
And then a few weeks ago, you announced that you decided to get back in the race with Daryl Metcalfe. Take me through that decision. First, talk a little bit about your decision to jump in the race against Mike Kelly, and then how you transitioned into deciding to take a shot at Daryl.
Well, my psychiatrist explained it as no, just kidding. One of the things that I'll even back up a little bit further just to clear the air, because this is going to be one of the things he's going to be bringing up. But when one runs for office, you sort of make a decision right on time, just in time, or too late.
Yeah.
And I did end up running for Butler County Prothonotary because I wanted to get my hands dirty a little bit more into the row offices of the county to help out. But during that time, after petition season and everything, things changed. Mainly because I took a step back and I was thinking about, okay, why did I come in and do this in the first place? When I'm not a politician, I was just running, and hopefully we can use this. I was running as a pissed off constituent.
Right.
And when doing something like that, I sort of thought, how am I able to make change in an administrative office? Not that I'm demeaning the Prothonotari's office. Glenna Walters there was a beautiful, wonderful person, knew what she was doing for the past 30-some years. And then I got to learn one of the candidates that was running as a Republican, but she ended up losing her Republican seat. And but I got to learn more about her, my husband and I, and Paula Painter is her name. And I was sort of walking the talk that I did. It doesn't matter what party you're with; it's the person. And that's how it should happen within the district. And when I got to know her, she was qualified for the job.
Right.
She was doing it for 19 years.
Sure.
And in a position that I don't think should be an elected position, Prothonotary, she was it. Well, unfortunately, what we did was whenever I backed out, they were looking for a Democrat to fill my space. And then I talked with her more and found out she was a Democrat before, but she changed her registration to help circulate petitions for Glenna and so on. And at that point, she went through a process with the Butler County Democratic Committee, and she switched her party, and then all of a sudden, she was on the ballot.
Yeah.
So she had a second time. Unfortunately, she came close, but she didn't do
Right.
that. But she moved on to a better career and so on. Now, one of the things at the time where I was reflecting on this campaign a little bit more, I knew that there was somebody that was considering running against Daryl again.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about things more, and I happened to focus a little bit towards the congressional race. Once again, my belief to make a change, let's
Sure.
stick with elected office. Then I ended up going through my mind, and strategically, I practically lived through the Ron DiNicola time.
Right.
We did a lot of canvassing for him. We did a lot of canvassing in the area, in the southern portion of the district, and he was up in Erie. He came down a couple times. I totally respect the person.
Mm-hmm.
Is wonderful individual and helps out the community and so on. But the one thing that we and a lot of people kept asking was, you need to come down south more.
Right.
They redrew the districts, but they didn't redraw the districts to make sure Erie would win it all for you.
Right.
So with that thinking, I was like, okay, well, I'm a numbers guy. When I was with BNY Mellon, I sort of have an idea of what's going on. Why not put somebody that had somewhat of a stronghold in this area with what we accomplished with the Daryl Metcalfe race and build from there? I grew up in Zelienople since I was 1 year old.
Right.
I had relationships all down in the southern portion, Newcastle, Mercer, Sharon, everywhere. And then all of a sudden, I started campaigning. We announced, I started campaigning and went everywhere, up to Erie many times, Crawford County, Lawrence, Mercer. And then Erie ended up putting somebody in. And she's a wonderful person, has a wonderful story to tell, waiting on issues more that she can focus on. And then another person out of Newcastle came in, and newcomer, Brandy, new to doing this, but he's following his passion, which I admire.
Sure.
Has to build up his social media presence a lot more. But I got to learn about them. And but what really got my attention was talking to individuals. I did what I did in the Metcalfe race. We went to farmhouses. We went to rural areas. We talked with people in Meadville, in Twinsburg, and so on. And it was really hard. It was really hard to listen to them because you're talking about farmers that are contemplating suicide because they can't make mortgage payments or their livelihoods closing down. You have foreclosure rates that are up, and Mike Kelly was just totally ignoring that. And but there was a lot more involved with healthcare and with education that was being ignored. But in my mind and in my stomach, I just started getting sick of the whole thing. Sick meaning just not fed up with it. It's just sick meaning it was just making me ill.
Yeah.
Mainly because I kept thinking of, how can anyone get anything done in the cesspool that's happening in D.C. right now? And it's like, do I really want to continue with something like that?
Right.
And the more and more I met with people, and more I listened, it was like, I don't know how I can help it. But then it just sparked in. Going back to now what we talked about when someone was running about Metcalfe, we're caught up to that point now. She was a wonderful person. She is a wonderful person. Her name's Angela. And she was very passionate about education. We got HDCC met her. I met her. We went over a lot of the. We started the process of the Rolodex time, where you get your contacts. And it was at that time she sort of had to come to Jesus talk with herself and her family and everything, and she just decided that wasn't her direction.
Yeah.
And I respect that. It's not because of the person that she was running against. It's just the time involved. She wants to get her master's and so on.
Sure.
So at that time, look, the good Lord, and it's like always puts a door in front of you. And after about like the 14th call from the HDCC and a little bit of incentive that goes on in there because the DNC is infusing money, and there's a lot of other factors that were involved, I did not want, Daryl Metcalfe to go unchecked.
Right.
But that's not the reason I'm running, if that makes sense. If he doesn't run, fine. I just feel that this seat has been taken over by an obstructionist for a long period of time, that we ended up putting our views out there and what we're looking for, which is local issues aren't partisan issues, and a lot of people resonated with that. You're going to have 17% of extreme on the right and 17% of extreme on the left. It's the middle that we're looking for.
Right.
That will get us over the top. We came within 2 percentage points away from him in Cranberry Township alone, won 3 precincts, including his own, which no one's ever done. We just need to communicate more up to 28 into the rural areas, which we can.
Sure.
And I'm like, you know what? We could do this again. I don't care if it's a presidential race, because when I go to every household, talk with individuals, if they want to vote for Trump, fine. I'm worried about local. I'm not worried about federal, because if you're watching, there's major differences.
Yeah.
Then I figured I could do more, and I'm actually taking a piece out of the Republican playbook. Any type of laws or any type of whatever the case may be should start with the states.
Right.
Why not go with the state legislature? Stick with that. And you got people that say, well, you didn't come even close, blah, blah, blah. No. Numbers mean one thing, but the thing is, you don't understand the strides that we made. We knocked over 22,000 doors.
Right.
We raised more money than anyone has ever raised in a state race. We made him spend more money than he has ever spent in a race, over close to $140,000. And then what we ended up doing was, the HDCC said that we had the #1 campaign in the state that outperformed historic numbers.
Yeah.
We can continue that. I don't think it's a lost cause. I didn't think it was a lost cause last time. I think it is not a lost cause this time. That's when we decided to step up. I talked with my husband on this. I talked with my family on this. And because I know that there's going to be, once again, he's going to drag things through the mud.
Sure.
We'll talk that later.
Yeah.
But that's where we are right now, and that's hopefully that's a long-winded politician answer, but you asked.
Oh, it was
so
all right.
That's where we are.
I'm still awake, so it wasn't that long-winded of a politician answer.
Good.
No, I think it was. It's very. It's interesting how you made that transition, and you kind of came full circle back around to Daryl. Now, you mentioned that there was somebody else going to run. But I would assume too that there were some personal reasons, or there was something maybe that made you think, do I want to go back at this again? Like when you first decided to, I mean, because obviously you knew Daryl was coming back up for re-election in 2 years. So what was it that didn't just make you at first say, let me get in there and let me get another crack at this guy, because we did perform well. I mean, the overall numbers are what the overall numbers are, but you performed well. So was there something because it was a stressful race. I know that. And it was, it became a personal race, which is something you try, which we'll talk about, because that's a strategy thing. We'll talk about that, because that's something you, as I covered that race, it's something you try to avoid. I would think it took its toll on you.
It did. As
it went on. So what was your thinking coming into the season in the beginning? Why didn't you just go right for Daryl? Was the candidate announced that early? The Democratic candidate?
Yes, for the most part. I wanted to give her the opportunity. I respected her. I got to know her I met her at the Butler County Democratic picnic over at Cranberry Township.
Yeah.
And I heard a little bit of rumors with it too, and I knew what she was thinking about. Angela was her name, and is her name, and I had a lot of respect for it. To go with the question, what Daryl ended up doing was, and I said this to John Delano whenever he sent out that last mailer about my husband being in quotes and everything.
Correct.
I wasn't making a big deal of it, but you know what? It's like whenever you attack family.
Yeah.
He attacked my mother.
Right.
Which, if he's watching right now, I'm letting it all out there right now. Yes, my mom is a convicted felon. Yes, she went to jail. But you know what? If you can't think of the fact to give a person a second chance that has rehabilitated life, then you need your feelings checked. Because right now, she is a better person religiously, spiritually, and mentally.
Yeah.
She was sick. Bipolarism with depression. A lot of people don't know in the inside story yet. Daryl had no problem putting trust in the news that he calls fake by using and putting it out there as like the Bible.
Right.
Talk about hypocrite.
Right.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
he also obviously brought my sexuality into play. And it hurt at that time because with the quote-unquote husband. Now, at that point, it was actually kind of funny. I felt really bad, but my husband, bless his heart, 15 years,
Yeah.
he looked at the picture, and I said, I am really sorry, but we knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. And his response was, well, if I knew that he would spend all that money on a picture of you, me, and the governor, I would have wore a better tie. But it also gave me an idea for a Christmas present for him. I got him sterling silver quotation marks for his cufflinks.
That's awesome.
So he's good
That's
with
a great
that.
idea.
But that did not that did bring up that was
Yeah.
in there. But to be honest with you, what I was telling people was, why would I do it? Because it's gerrymandered to the point where we've proven that you can't do it.
Right.
But moreover, there's a lot of factors. I think whenever that happened with Angela, what did it for me was the fact that one factor was we did that good when I was working a full-time job.
Yes.
And Monday after Thanksgiving, after 14 years, I was laid off from BNY Mellon.
Right.
I was part of the round of layoffs.
Wait, how did that happen? Because the economy is fantastic.
Well,
That's
there
what
was
I hear.
Economic downturn is what they told me.
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
make America. So that was done. So now I could focus 24/7 on this campaign because of what we put ourselves into a financially comfortable position to do so. And also the new fact is what this is where we're changing the strategy now.
Yeah.
Is the fact that there's no more street party voting.
Right.
So, unfortunately, yes, the people in the urban areas and the city areas have to work a little bit harder, but they don't understand that in the rural areas and, considered where we are, that was one of the things we talked about when we knocked the 22,000 doors. You vote for the best person and not party, because if you vote for party, this is the person that you don't know who you're putting in office.
Right.
Local issues aren't partisan issues. And that's what we have to explain. So now we could take that off the table talking with people. Now they could recognize name with change and with what it is. Name recognition is going to be the big thing, and that's going to be, they're going to see Daryl Metcalfe, and that's the name.
I want to go back to just one more, and then we'll get off.
I hope I answered that question.
No, you did.
Okay.
But one of the things I wanted to specifically ask you about, because we talked last year, last election cycle. It wasn't last year, but last election cycle. It seems like that's the thing with these races. That you feel like you just did one, you just won, or you just came off. And if you want to do it again, you got to jump right back in. I mean, it's a never-ending cycle. But one of the things that you told me was about you didn't have, because again, Daryl Metcalfe refused to be in a room with you to have a debate or even some kind of public discussion.
He wouldn't even shake my hand.
Well, that's what I want to get to. So at the time you sort of laughed it off, and I thought about it later, because I mean that Daryl's an idiot, and so it makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, but I understand. Obviously, oh yeah, of course Daryl wouldn't shake his hand because he's an idiot who has whatever an image or whatever he's trying to put forward. But I thought about that later, just from if it was anybody, regardless if it's somebody that you like or respect or whatever, to have that sort of public, I don't want to, it's not a shaming, but a public just sort of rejection of who you are. And somebody, there's always been, I mean, a race can be as dirty as it wants. Still, publicly or openly, there's still the whole, I respect my opponent for blah, blah, blah. That wasn't there. And I feel like that might have taken a bigger toll on you than you let on at the time.
As well as with my team member, too.
Yeah.
My field director, Patrick, was with me, and it was at the primaries, actually.
Yes.
And Patrick Joy, a wonderful person. I believe he's working with Senator Jay Costa right now, but one of the best field directors. If any campaigns out there, Patrick Joy was the best. He was with me, and he said, Daryl came walking out, and he asked, do you think I could go over and say hi? I said, I don't see why not. So Patrick went over, was nice as can be, and put out his hand, says, hello, Mr. Metcalfe, my name's Patrick. It's a pleasure to meet you. And point blank looked at Patrick and said, I don't think so, Patrick. And that was it. Something he did the same thing to me prior.
Yeah.
But it was actually kind of funny. Before he knew who I was, I went to a Christmas cookie dinner, cookie thing at his office, and he shook my hand. We talked and everything.
Sure.
And then plus he had no problem going to my house whenever he was circulating petitions, because at the time my husband was a registered Republican, but for not the reasons for all that. It's just, that's what, he's going to kill me for saying this, but he just likes the color red. I promise you that was it. but he came to our door.
Sure.
And yet, whenever he brought my mother into things, he had no problem going to my parents' house and asking for their signature.
Right.
So I honestly think that it's somebody that really needs to reflect more. If he's that close to Jesus Christ as he says, I'm a Christian as well. I mean, my husband is the organist and choir master, not only at Ingomar Methodist Church for the past 20-some years in Wexford, but he's also the music director in services at Road of Shalom Congregation, who's currently housing the Tree of Life Synagogue individuals. And he's been there for over 25 years as well. Wow. So we have a good faith with God. Yeah. We have a good base with church services and so on. Nowhere in the Bible does it have that, to treat other people like as pariahs or something like that. I mean, we're not sick. We're human beings. A lot of people said, well, would you want to shake someone's hand if they're bashing you and stuff like that? Well, you know what? I have people bashing me all the time. It's called putting on a happy face and looking professional and shaking the hand. Keep it to yourself. That, in my opinion, was not him. I think that he needs some help, or he needs some sort of counseling or something, because the book that he's reading is not the same book that I grew up with in church. And it did hurt. And it even hurt my field director at the time. It was something that was unspeakable. But I was there to shake his hand. I knew who he was. Mm-hmm. I went over and I went to shake his hand, and he denied it. Yeah. So if I could do it, why couldn't he? Right. Exactly. That shows the differences of people.
Right. You're listening to the Pittsburgh Current Podcast. We are here with Dan Smith. He is running once again against State Rep Daryl Metcalfe, looking to unseat him from the State House. And we do want to mention our sponsors. Our other sponsor today is Drusky Entertainment. Pink Floyd's The Wall just celebrated its 40th anniversary. Nice. Don't miss the all-Pittsburgh tribute to The Wall featuring Pit Floyd, Pittsburgh's premier Pink Floyd tribute on Saturday, January 11th. Tickets are available now at www.druskyent.com. That's www.druskyent.com.
Weren't those the people that were picked by Pink Floyd to continue the music for Pink Floyd?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it could,
My little brother got tickets for that for Christmas, and he was just geeked as hell can be with it. And I'm like, oh, Pink Floyd. Okay.
It should be a good show. So let's talk strategy. So going into this last time, you very much look, Daryl's record's out there. I don't know how much for our audience we need to actually say, but
we'll make it
to
known.
Say, but to say that Daryl is homophobic would be an understatement, because there's got to be like terms like super homophobic or uber homophobic or there's like there's and there's casual racism and there's super racist,
but there's also times we have fun with it.
Sure.
We just enjoy it. It's like, but oh well, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
he's the 17% we talked about on the extreme on the right side.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, right? He is the extreme of the extreme. I mean, he's a guy who flipped his lid because someone touched him, and that goes back to what we talked about. Someone touched him during a committee meeting in the State House. Touched him on the arm, and that was a famous blowout to win national.
Don't forget about the CO2 and vegetables that he likes.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about
that one.
And I do want to say, go to the Pittsburgh Current YouTube page, because our visuals editor Jake Mislivchik made a great video of the time of Daryl's. It's called Don't Stop. It's called Don't Stop Touching Me, and so you need to go and check Don't Stop Touching Me out. We'll put a link. Up here too for you guys to check that out.
Right.
So you really tried to focus on local issues, because again, at the base of it, that's what it is. I mean, we were talking about a guy who has served several terms in office.
Right.
Anyone who's driven on Freedom Road in Cranberry Township knows that one of the largest issues there has been the fact that Cranberry Township just blew up in the past 30 years or so. However, that little piece of road did not blow. I wish it would blow up, because it's a very, very tight corridor. So you will have any given weekend. I mean, and even in the mornings, the rush hour there, it really does mirror some rush hours that we have here in the city. And so it's with the backups. So you tried to keep it local. He doesn't work with local officials.
No.
He doesn't bring money back to the district.
Although he says he does, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. So you really tried to make it because, as you said, Democrat, Republican, these are the issues that matter.
Right.
This time, while you'll certainly be talking about the issues, you plan to talk more about his record.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit, and I do want to say this is probably a good time to mention your campaign team because you may want to mention them. You have Darren Behringer with you as a consultant, but also you have Joe Trippi with you as a consultant. And for those of you that I can't imagine there's anyone that is watching this now that doesn't know who Joe Trippi
Democrat.
is.
No, not
right,
but,
not knowing who. Well, we might have a couple of Republicans out there. But I mean, just quickly, he ran campaign for Walter Mondale. He ran campaigns for Jerry Brown. His most recent is the I'm sorry, and
Arkansas or Alabama.
Alabama. Yeah. I don't cover Alabama politics on a regular basis. So, Doug Jones, when Jeff Sessions gave up his seat to become Attorney General for 10 minutes. There was a special election, and Joe Trippi ran the campaign of Doug Jones and won that special election to put a Democrat in that seat. So Joe Trippi knows a thing or two about a thing or two.
Yes.
So he's joined your campaign.
Yes.
Talk about this team that you put together, and then let's talk about the strategy.
The team is actually a very well-rounded team.
Yeah.
We have various individuals that have done things in the past, and that's what I tend to do with That's what I tend to do, what I did in business, because you just didn't want to have a lot of yes people. I want to have debates. I want to be able to understand what's happening on both sides of the aisle. The campaign manager that we did bring on, you might know him as Steve Kochanowski. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
He was part of the Daniel McCaffrey campaign, and obviously victorious there, and Clark Mitchell as well, and several others. But he was also on Mitt Romney's team.
Yeah, right.
It was on Jets with him and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And he's a very knowledgeable person, and I appreciate that. And so that is somebody I want that person to hold me to the issues, hold me to the mats, and just show me exactly what the reverse of every issue would be.
Yeah.
Now, with Joe Trippi is concerned, I started with Darren Behringer. Now, you have a lot of progressives out there, or other Democrats that might say that, oh, he has Darren Behringer, that's it, we're not going to do that. But Darren is a very knowledgeable person.
Yeah.
I respected him. He was actually the person that laid out a plan for me for the congressional race to a win. And that's whenever anyone wants to run, that is key. You have to have a plan in place.
Yeah.
And he knew it right from the start going on. He sold me.
Right.
But I know that he's working other cases, other elections that could be a little bit of controversial within the party and everything. But I say to those individuals, that's his business.
Right.
That's what he wants to do. I have him on my team because of what he can do.
Right. And what he brings to the table.
That doesn't mean I endorse what's happening or deny what's happening or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's there, and he has a wonderful mind, and he just happened to go back up with Joe Trippi again. And Joe actually took an interest with this campaign because of Underdog, because of all this.
Right.
And whenever I moved from the congressional race, I went to my congressional team first to see if they'd like to stay on in the legislative race. And all of them said, yeah, especially Joe.
Yeah.
So we're all on board with it. I'm pumped. I'm ready to see what happens.
Right.
But I think with Joe on, I think with what he can do and what he has done so far, we're going to build up our social media presence. We're going to build up our media presence as well with ads and so on. We're bringing in money more than we did before. We're going to start doing that again. But what it also showed the HTCC as well as the party over in Harrisburg is that we mean business this time.
Right.
And that's it. So that means we could be prepared if Daryl does not run again for anybody that would run into the position.
Right.
That's why I said at the beginning that wasn't the sole reason why I came back in. I honestly feel that we need true representation after 18, 20 years.
Absolutely.
I'm running for the seat. Yes, Daryl's in that seat right now, but if he doesn't decide to run, I'm going for the seat.
Right.
And that's how we're going to work it. So, yes, I'm happy with that. And that's sort of, with Joe involved and with Darren involved, We also have field directing position, John McCabe. I don't know if you remember that name or not. He ran for 51st, upper barrel, lower barrel, against he's going to kill me. I always mix that number up. But he was one of the youngest state representative candidates last election cycle. And he's on board. Very energetic person, very knowledgeable person. And he just has a wonderful way about him to encourage youth and encourage strength to come volunteer and so on. I think he brings a lot of items into play, and I'm very honored that he's on the team.
Yeah.
And then our treasurer, Alicia McKee, has been with us since the beginning, and she's just wonderful.
Right.
She's part of the Democratic Committee in Butler. She does a great job there. So we, with Joe and Darren on board, we're going to be hitting harder.
Yeah,
we're going to be hitting harder on issues, because what the people in District 12 are going to understand is this isn't about Republican or Democrat. This is going to be about who you have been sending to office by just voting straight party.
Right.
Because the conversations we had with individuals were, do you know who your representative is? Well, a Republican. I would say, okay, but do you know his name, who he is? Well, he's Republican. Let me tell you what's going on.
So there are people. Wait a minute. So
oh yeah,
it's hard for me to wrap this because again, for those of us that do this, for those of us that follow this, I mean, you got support in the last election, and I imagine you'll get the similar kind of financial support. It came in from all over because he's notoriously an ass, and there's no other way to say it. He's so far right that it's. In his views that he's angered people from coast to coast.
And that's the funny thing, too, because he would actually make it a point to put it on his mailers that I ended up getting money from gay rights activists.
Right.
And so on. Mel Heifetz over in Philadelphia is a wonderful person.
Yeah.
I got to meet him finally in person. He does so much good for the area. William Way House and stuff in Philadelphia for trans youth and homeless. He was kind enough and generous enough to help us out. Yet Daryl would bring that up. And I wanted so bad to say to him, well, it's no different than you accepting money from big corporations and NRA.
Right.
We got to get the money where we're coming from.
Right.
That doesn't announce that I'm gay, because everyone should know that I am.
Right.
But I got to get the money somehow.
Right.
And it's because of that hatred towards him, I'm letting them speak with dollar amounts while I be the voice to change. But I'm not using that in a campaign, because it doesn't mean anything in my area.
Right. But that also shows the level of clue. I think his beliefs come with a level of cluelessness that a lot of America, even Republicans, even some of those folks on the right, they don't share those ideals. So he thinks by putting on a mailer that
guns, abortion, and taxes.
Right.
That's it.
Right. And that an LGBTQ group giving you money is like you getting money from the devil.
Devil himself.
And nobody and I think the majority of people, regardless of their personal stance or whatever, they see that that's not that big of a deal. Of course you're going to get that.
Right.
But to him it's like he found a smoking gun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the difference right now, because we're talking about a person that is still stuck in old school.
Yeah.
Old school politics. When you say Democrat, you obviously, his favorite words was lawless liberal.
Right.
Okay. Well, you don't know who I am.
Right.
Because what he's doing, he's pandering to the stereotypes, the words that people of that 17% end up working with who vote straight party.
Right.
So what he doesn't understand is the more houses that we go to and the more people we talk face to face, we're dispelling that idea, that mindset. But he actually has a hold on old school politics.
Right.
But what he has to understand is that he needs to make way for new school. There's a way that you can get things done by sort of going across the aisle and being able to get things done, and that's what I've done in the past. I don't put labels on him. I don't put. Well,
I do.
I know. There's sometimes I do, but I try my very hardest not to put homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, blah blah blah, Daryl Metcalfe on my mailers.
Right.
Because we haven't.
Right.
We brought out record, and that's what actually is.
So that's the difference. That's interesting. That's something we're talking about. So that's the difference. And a lot of times people will say, "Oh, you're getting dirty. You're getting political." I'm talking about your record. I mean, that's not dirty politics.
It's your words, your comments, your record.
Right. And
everything.
And so, in my mind, though, a lot of his record, a lot of the things that he said, legislation when he was on the state government committee, and we'll talk about his new role. Jesus Christ, we'll talk about his new role, but he blocked.
If you can make a comic strip out of it, then that's actually something different.
And this is one, This is one of Rob Rogers' brood on grants from the Pittsburgh Current, and he did a piece on Daryl Metcalfe.
This was. I almost spit out my coffee when I read this one, but we'll talk more.
We'll talk more about that. So how do you just I mean, it would be hard for me not to point out to somebody that, again, Daryl Metcalfe is Islamophobic and homophobic and all the phobics that hate other people, most other people,
right,
except wasps. I'm a wasp. Look, I'm a wasp.
Did he just say?
I'm a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. And
I'm gay, so that's okay. Okay, well, we got great.
I mean, let me say this: I grew up a wasp.
Okay, all right.
I cracked my. Anyway, so, but it's true. But that's his base. That's his base. And again, as you say, I think a lot of his base are just people who vote straight party ticket.
And he even said that in an interview with John Delano when we were doing about the husband. He says, "Well, people that will hold this true in their hearts whenever they end up voting. This does matter." Why? When he asked, "Why did you have to feel that you had to put quotes?" Well, that's what he calls them. That's not what I call them.
Right.
And people will determine their votes based off that.
Right.
He said it.
Right. So how is it different talking about the record? Because the record is very much tied to those words in a lot of cases.
Yes.
So I guess it's a matter of presentation.
Yes.
It's going to be, you're going to say dun 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 dun, and I'm going to say, oh, he's homophobic or whatever. But it's all in the presentation.
It's all in the presentation, and that's what I told you before, that whenever we go to doors, we don't talk about the homophobic, Islamophobic, or anything like that. What we went to do is we talked about roads and so on, but what we also found out during the election, that really didn't hit home because every Democratic challenger has used that platform. What we can do is turn a message into something that everybody can relate to. And yes, you do have to watch how you present it.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to do is put people in that position, which is why we're going on record a lot more.
Take a few examples of the record. Let's run through
a few examples. One of the things that we're going to be bringing up is the fact that, and really pounding, and I'll bet you any money starting today, his mailers are going to start talking more. He claims that he had brought millions of dollars into the Freedom Road and 228 project.
Correct.
Notice he didn't talk about it before until we brought it up.
Right.
And that's fine. And his claim to fame, which he has always put on his signs going up and down the roads, and what he says, protecting the taxpayer. You can look at every mailer protecting the taxpayer. I can honestly tell you right here and now, that's a lie. That is a lie with what he's doing. Mainly because what he's doing, he's voting no on pretty much every budget that goes on in Harrisburg irresponsibly because it has the word tax on it.
Right.
But what he's also doing, he is not protecting the taxpayer, and I'm calling it out right now. We are going to have a debate. I am going to be calling for a debate from Daryl. We are going to have it, and I hope it will be televised because this one question I will be asking. You claim that you protect the taxpayer, yet whether you're Republican or Democrat, you go to local leaders in the area and you find out for the past 20 years they have spent millions of dollars of local tax money to hire lobbying firms and consulting firms to go to Harrisburg to fight for the money, follow me here, fight for the money that you're supposed to bring back to the area. Tell me how that's protecting the taxpayer. And if you cannot answer that question, may I have my money back?
Right.
Because I'm a Democrat, and that pisses me off.
Right.
Because that's money that could go to parks. That's money that can be invested in transportation in Cranberry Township and also all around the district. Mm-hmm. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, that should make you upset.
Right.
And he says it's not his job to do that. Yet you have Senator Scarnetti that we'll be bringing up facts. Millions of dollars in his district, and he's a Republican senator.
Right.
You have all these other representatives that are bringing money back, but when he claims that he brings millions of dollars back, he has not. Local leaders have.
Right. Right. These are Cranberry Township spent money on lobbyists to go to Harrisburg
Yes.
to lobby for that
past
money
20 years.
because their elected state representative would not do it. Right.
Because he believes it's their job to do it. And I have council people, and supervisors that said they would love to not go to Harrisburg all the time.
Right.
They could pick up their phone, call their representative, Democrat or Republican. That's what a representative should do.
Yeah.
That's the job. Not spew hate, not bring down race, not embarrass people like he does, and just brings a bad light to people in the area with all his shenanigans and what he does over there. Well, I just used an old-time word, shenanigans. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I didn't want to use what I really wanted to say.
Right.
So, yes, we are going to be putting facts, and that is not bashing people.
Right.
That is like, this is who you have been voting for.
Right.
I'm not going to be the best person for this, but I've lived in the area. Unlike him, I've lived in the area all my life. He's just a transplant from New York.
Right.
He wasn't there when people in Cranberry or anything would know where Viola's was, or knew what farmland was in. Kmart was the first store that came up over there.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have the appreciation with
Right.
that. Living in Zillionople and going to Cranberry all the time was a big fun thing.
I mean, it was in the beginning. It was a gas station, it was a Denny's, and it was a toll booth.
Right.
That's what Cranberry farms.
There was a Dutch pantry there
Right.
by the Turnpike area.
yeah.
There was Tour Rest Hotel and all these other ones. So yeah, but I honestly think that if he would truly, now, say for instance, there was a situation, there was something that I presented to the police chiefs of the area, and this was during the election. We ended up providing something to the police chiefs of the area that Cranberry passed, dealing with license plate readers and stuff like that. It has helped. I talked with the police chief in Cranberry. It has helped them tremendously with accidents, with crimes, with so on and everything. We were in a conference room with supervisors, with Jerry Andre, with police chiefs and everything. And where was Daryl Metcalfe? In his office downstairs. Because he says it's not his job.
Right.
So I'm doing stuff for the area, and I'm not even elected. But that's what everyone should be doing.
Right. And a lot of people, especially people who try and either, I don't want to bring up any personal situations, but when people try to say, look, Daryl Metcalfe is in Butler County. Why should the people of Allegheny County care? Why should the people of Philadelphia care? He's one of the most powerful individuals.
You hit the nail on the head.
In the state legislature. He previously, you talk about things like medical marijuana, these kind of things, and an LGBTQ anti-discrimination bill. These are things that Daryl has spent years blocking as the head of the state government committee. This year, the newest term, Mike Turzai, state speaker, decided to take him off that committee because he did some really
we were
crazy things in that seat.
Frank Dermody and leadership actually mentioned that our campaign was instrumental in getting him off the state government committee because of what we brought up. Yeah, and it would make Turzai look bad if he should run.
Right.
For governor.
And this was newspapers across the state were calling for his resignation because of the things he was doing on that committee. But then I look at where Turzai puts him, and it's on environmental committee. He's now chairs the.
See, I question. See, that's where I bring up. I understand that Turzai really doesn't have a say, but he signs off on it.
Sure.
And that's where I question his leadership ability.
Yeah.
Because knowing that, and I'll use it right now.
Go ahead.
You've
been holding out for a while.
That. Putting Daryl Metcalfe on the state climate change panel,
right?
That's like appointing him as Grand Marshal of the Gay Pride Parade,
right?
Or
that's from the Rob Rogers.
That's
comic
Rob Rogers comment. Or putting you in charge of election integrity.
Yeah.
Or in charge of gun safety.
Right.
So, yes, I question Mike Turzai's leadership abilities if he's even deciding to run for governor, and I hope Emily Skopov calls him out on that.
Yeah.
Because she is running against him again.
Is.
But with Daryl, that's the thing. You would think that being one of the most, and I hate to blow his ego up like this, but you just call it the way it is. Being one of the most senior people there, and one of the most powerful Republicans there, you would think that it would use that clout, that what's the word I'm looking for? That
Gravitas.
Gravitas, yes, to benefit his area, first and foremost. But what he's doing is he's using that position to make him look bad.
Yeah.
Which is why it's amplified throughout the state, because of who he is.
Right.
That's what he's doing. He could turn it into something that's helpful because people remember that. I've known Republican legislators that knew what they were doing and that helped, but people kept them in the good light.
Right.
But to constantly do what he's doing,
right,
it does not make sense.
Yeah, we now have a chair of the environmental committee who says that the carbon dioxide in the air is good for the vegetables you grow in your garden. I mean, this is one of his.
Get those vegetables up, yeah. See, and that's the thing too. It's like, to me, it's just unbelievable on how individuals. On how putting some, and I used an example, it was like a kid in a candy store, but the way it was supposed to go up on the city paper comment was the fact that with the gas lobby's money that he collects, and big businesses in his pocket, it is like a kid in a candy store in that committee, because he lets things go. He brings in, I don't know where he brings these scientists in to talk about it, but as you know, and as you read, true scientists have dispelled his comment with regards to that. So putting him in charge of something like that is just, I think on Turzai and leadership's part is just irresponsible, just totally insane. I think the best thing would have done is if he was not chair of any committee, then that would have showed good leadership skills, I think, on Turzai's part. Right.
That's one thing I think Daryl is masterful at. If there's some kind of lunatic out there with an opinion that backs his lunatic opinions, he finds them.
Yeah.
I sat on an immigration hearing, probably a good 15, 16 years ago, that he had in Cranberry Township. And the folks that he trotted through there, to talk about, immigration, these alleged experts. I mean, like I said, if there's a nut job with an opinion that supports his opinion, he finds them.
My father, and I'll even give you time to look up this quote so you can really do it, about the veterans and environmental, if they support environmentalists. My father is a veteran.
Mm-hmm.
I have no place at all to criticize veterans, no matter what they served or how they served or what they did, because I am not a veteran. I recognize that he is a veteran, that Daryl is a veteran. So when I thought about that more, I put a lot of thanks in the people that put their lives on the line for our country, that they do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a veteran like Daryl Metcalfe bash other veterans because of environmental views, he ended up, I'll paraphrase it unless you found it yet.
I found it. Yes. So this is from the Penn Capital Star.
Yes.
Stephen Caruso, who I know is a really good journalist, former intern of mine. It says, before becoming chairman of this environmental committee, Metcalfe also called veterans campaigning against climate change traitors, defended rapidly climbing atmospheric carbon as needed by our environment, and has frequently ridiculed climate alarmism. There's a lot of quotes in here, by the way. Alarmism as nothing more than a Democratic plot to increase taxes. And again, we're back to the king of the taxes.
That summarizes it right there.
He called veterans who believed basically that we needed climate changes controls.
God forbid they have views.
Right. They're traitors.
They're traitors. God forbid they have views against his.
Right.
So he's calling his fellow veterans.
Yeah.
That. So, but I can't say that because out of respect to veterans and to my father, as a non-veteran, I'm not bringing that up. But look, this is what a veteran does.
Yeah.
So tell me how that's a representation of, that's not a representation of me.
Right.
I was a lifelong Republican. It's inherited party.
Yeah.
I switched to the Democratic Party because I ended up getting a letter in the mail from the GOP that lists the top 3 things that the GOP goes after Republicans: guns, abortion, and taxes. But after every issue, it had without question, without question, without question.
Right.
And in my mind, the last time there was a party that actually forced beliefs on people without question, I think it was back in Germany or something like that, right? I refuse to be a part of a party like that. The only reason I moved to the Democratic Party is because I feel that we have a duty. We have a right. And he talks about freedoms and stuff with the Constitution. We have a right to question our leaders. We have a right to stand up to them. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you have a right to say what's wrong, and that's what we're doing with this campaign. We're taking a record that he can't back out of now, like he did with the 228 broader issues. We're bringing quotes, we're bringing dollars, we're bringing everything in play to show people this is it. And there's a couple more things that we're doing as well, but that's going to hit everybody.
Right.
Taxes, how money is truly spent, and he has not helped or protected the taxpayer in our area.
Dan Smith, thank you so much for joining us. And we believe me, we could go on for another.
Do we get any comments?
48 minutes.
No followers?
That's what Jake told me to. That's what Jake told me to look at.
Get out of here. Really? Come on. Well, I'll tell you what you could do is you can actually go to our you can go to Act Blue and look for us for Daniel Smith. You can find us there, or go to our Facebook page. It's at Daniel for PA on Facebook. Go ahead, follow and like, and donate. I mean, if you don't have a voice and you don't live in this area and you feel that you don't have a voice to vote, use a dollar amount. It could be $2, $5, 100,000. I don't care. Every little bit counts, because as Charlie said, and as I've said a lot of times before, is that a win for this area is not only just for House District 12, it's all for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because we need to have representation that we feel can best suit us. It does not have to be party, and I can't stress that enough. That's what we'll be doing when we knock doors, is the fact that local issues aren't partisan issues. If we need emergency services, do you think the 911 people ask what your party affiliation?
Right. We hope not.
When people go to school,
yeah.
When students go to school and they have roll call for the first aid, does the teacher ask what party affiliation their family is? Not yet. In Daryl's world, yes. We cannot continue to put them on a partisan chessboard.
Right.
We need to include everybody and get things done for the state. And I honestly feel that this time around, even if Donald Trump is running on the ticket, as I say to the Republicans in my district, and it's not going to bash the Democratic Party at all, it's just for real. If you want to vote for Trump, go ahead. I'm worried about local issues.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can open up your ticket now. I just wish that Daniel Smith would be synonymous with change,
right, and
true representation for everyone.
Dan, thank you so much. We want to have you back. And I do want to say, Representative Metcalfe, the chair's always open if you'd like to come in and chat.
We'll disinfect it first.
Right. No, we'll bring another chair in. We don't want, Jesus.
We don't.
This has been the Pittsburgh Current Podcast. We want to thank our sponsors today, Jazz HR and Drusky Entertainment. www.jazzhr.com, www.druskyent.com. Check out our sponsors. Check out Dan Smith. And we'll see you next week on the Pittsburgh Current Podcast.
Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Yeah. Extra, reading the issue. Raw news, unapologetic, no tissue. Catch the wave, the flow for certain. Nothing pull you in like a Pittsburgh Current. Free from influence, nothing less than. No flexing, aim for progression. We cover news, politics, all forms, and entertainment that comes in all sources. Pittsburgh, a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative. Giving Pittsburgh a better alternative.